what that does is it records everything that we say from this moment onwards, and that's what I publish onto YouTube, and that's what I put up onto the podcast and all that kind of stuff. So you can move you can move the coat stand.
I had a big coat stand coming out my head.
I like your style. Okay, now I have actually prepared some questions. Okay. That I'd like to go. I'd like to get your opinion on. Just, I mean, I know that you're coming along to talk at the dinner next week, and I'm really looking forward to that. We've got a dozen or so people coming along, and it will be great to meet you in person. But these questions, they're a little bit more in detail. So, you know, it's really just, I guess getting your take on it. From the mindset of somebody who's not really done any social selling before, who's maybe just starting and getting used to it. So let's say the first question: can you give me your definition of social selling? What's the Tim Hughes definition?
So quite often people think that social selling is about a different way of selling or a different methodology of selling. And it's not that. It's the fact that how we buy things has changed. So if we go back 20 years, when I went out to buy a car, I would have had to go to and sit in front of lots of salespeople, and the process would have taken a long time. Now, if I want to buy a car, I go online, I go to Google, and I actually have talked to people, and I know somebody that's actually completed the whole of the process online. Where in the UK, I wanted to get a discount and I wanted to do a part exchange, so I had to talk to a salesperson. And so us sales professionals are in a situation that we have a buyer now that is probably has gone online and has educated themselves and probably knows as much as we do about our product and services. And what that buyer is doing is not engaging with a salesperson until they're 60%. I have research from SAP, which is 85%, and I know of an enterprise deal that's actually been done completely online. So anywhere between about 60% and 100% of the buying process is now done online.
So to some organizations, that's going to be music to their ears. To others, it's going to be terrifying. Having a customer turn up that technically knows more than the man on the floor about the product. I mean, you've got some real training, some serious hurdles to overcome those. I mean, is that right? Have you come across that kind of fear in companies?
Yes, a lot of what I see, the resistance I see, is usually based on fear and usually based on a misunderstanding of what social is. Because there's still a perception that social is about posting pictures of your lunch and it's about kids. Whereas, you know, I've been seeing an ROI in selling on social for over 2 years. And so what's happening in the buying process is, and this comes out of research from Google, is that somebody will go online, generally spend about 65% of the buying process time on looking at content, YouTube videos, white papers. They'll look at your website, and then they'll come up with a short list of 2 or 3. Great if you're on that short list of 2 or 3, but how is it, or how can salespeople get on that short list of 2 or 3? And the cool thing is, all the change that we have to make within the sales process is that we can actually use tools, we can actually do some cool things to actually make sure that we are, when we're getting an inbound call on an opportunity, they're making that inbound call to us. Okay. And not the competition.
Okay, so a lot of business processes are involved in this. It's not really just a point of giving a rep a Twitter account or saying, yeah, you can.
Well, it is. I mean, what I often get is people say, well, it's all very well. You're Oracle. You're a big company. You got loads of resources. You can do social selling for free. You don't. The only cost is your time. So on my blog, I go through a friend of mine who's making 10 C-level meetings a week using Twitter. Last week he did 12, but the blog talks about 10. So, you know, and what I say to people is, if you, okay, so his service or his product is £3,000, it's a low value item. But even if you were making one C-level meeting a week, you'd be in a better place than you are right now. And you can go on, you can use Twitter, and it's free of charge. If you're a small business, you can go out and generate leads, and you don't need to have a lot of resources or budgets to actually do this. Okay.
Let me come on to my next question then. Can you give me 3 things not to do? So let's say that I'm an organization, I'm an MD in a company, I've got maybe 30, 40 employees, doing a couple of £1 million a year. I'm about to really get into social selling. What are the 3 things that I shouldn't do at that corporate level within the business?
So some of the common errors that I see, first and foremost, is to see this as a tactical measure, rather than actually see it as a strategy and a change of way that you do things. So quite often what people do is that they say, here's LinkedIn, it's on the net, go and use it, without actually understanding why they should be using it. And I've seen people do things like, oh yeah, we need to change our profile on LinkedIn. Oh, I'll just copy my friends. And you know, you'll have a company and they've all got the same LinkedIn profiles. Other things that people do is that, you know, we need to do social media, therefore we need to be on everything. And they're on Pinterest and they're on, you know, all kinds of social networks. And really you just need to from a business to business perspective, you really need to focus on 2, which are Twitter and LinkedIn. A third one would be, Jewel Rowley has a saying that a fool with a tool is still a fool. And that kind of comes back to the strategy piece, but you know, you can give people, there's various social media listening tools that you can use, and you know, you can do those and people don't know why, or they're doing it because they like playing with it rather than actually understanding that they're trying to create leads. Because at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is no different from what I've been in sales for 27 years. And, you know, what we're trying to do is create leads, take those through and actually sell things and generate revenue and profit. And we shouldn't lose sight of those elements. Okay.
Can you tell me on the opposite side of that question then, what's your golden social selling rule? If you got one golden rule, what would it be? You could only say one thing to someone, what would it be?
For people just getting to social selling, the most important thing is to engage on social. Social is about engagement. And I think one of the mistakes that people make is quite often what you'll do is you just pump out content because someone's told you to do that. You know, you need to look at the context. You need to know about your customer. You need to, you know, if you're pumping content about utilities, but you're selling into local government, you're kind of going to get nowhere. And just pumping out content doesn't really help. And we need to learn how to engage with people, because selling is still the same. That you go through a process of building trust. Selling is still about it's people to people. All that we're doing is that we're moving some of that engagement that we did, usually face-to-face, or the building of the rapport online. And we shouldn't kind of either try and be different or than ourselves, or just, you know, it's about getting that engagement with people and building the trust like we've always done in sales.
Okay. Now I follow your blog. Your blog, if I'm right, socialsaleslounge.com, is that right?
Yes, it is, yes.
Okay. I've got a question about something that you put on your blog recently, but let me come back to that. Before I do that, I've got a question. This is quite an interesting question. I asked the same question to Brian yesterday or the day before. Let's say that you are an organization, you've got 30, 40 people, you've built your business up over the last few months or the last few years. You know, it's a very private business. You take everything very personally.
Yeah.
Then you've got these sales guys that are like, we want to do social selling. I want to do Twitter. I want to do Facebook. I want to do LinkedIn. You know, is it okay? You're free to just go like puppies, go. Or is it, no, hang on. Here's a book. I'm going to write it all out. It goes into the operation. This is what you can do. This is what you can't do. because you got to make a decision. You got to go either one way or the other way. And we know that salespeople sometimes, if they get the bit in their teeth, they're off. What's your
social selling is a strategy. It's something that you've got to agree to do, and and it's about coming up with a plan. And part of that is understanding where your customers are. So for example, I've got a blog that I'm just about to go live with, which is with a guy who's he does all of his training and all of his work on Google+. Now, when he said this, I just like, what? Google what? What do you mean? And he's and you need to read the blog, but he goes through a whole process about the thought process about doing that. And that's because the people that he's working with would see Google+ and the benefit from Google+. So at the end of the day, you need to go to where your customer is, rather than saying, I want to do Pinterest because I like that, or whatever, or I want to do Instagram. It's about going to where your customers are and they feel best. From a B2B perspective, my customers are on LinkedIn and my customers are on Twitter. That's the reason why I say that. Most of my customers see Facebook as a way for to link up with family and friends and post pictures of their baby and stuff like that. They don't necessarily see it as a tool for generating leads. But other businesses may actually find that as a way. If you're a photographer and you want to find people who have just said that they're engaged because you want to put your photography services in front of their faces because they're probably going to get married, maybe Facebook is the right place for you. So it's horses for courses.
Okay, so I'm just going to run out of that. I mentioned your blog a moment ago, which may have given people a few minutes just to go and have a quick look at it. And one of the questions that I had, and it's not really to do with social selling, so it's a bit of a curveball. It's about the sharing economy that, I hear so much about the sharing economy, Uber and all this kind of stuff. You spoke about the things that are driving it in terms of customers, the customer experience. I've been stood there waiting for cabs and they've just driven past me, and I get that whole thing. Where's it going though? I mean, is this going to put all of these black cabs out of business? We're not going to see them anymore. Are we going to see airplanes using stuff like Uber? Where do you think? I mean, I see that you wrote about the drivers behind it, but where do you think social selling is actually going? Are we all going to be entrepreneurs in 5 years?
Social is a continually evolving beast. I've seen it changed certainly in the last 2 years, even the last 6 months. There's people coming up with new ideas. The thing about, to take your sharing economy piece, I lived through the dot-com boom, and we saw that go boom and we saw that go bust. The difference here is that what people were doing during the dot-com boom was that they were taking business ideas and in fact putting like a web front end. They're putting a shop front on their business. What you're seeing with the sharing economy is a completely different way of doing business. It's a completely different business model, and I think that what you're finding is that there is a change taking place. So in 5 years' time, Uber may not even exist. It may be something that had been overtaken by it. And I mean, if you look at the way that things are coming in, wearables and that, the acceleration of change and the way that people are coming up with bright ideas, and like this app that we're using to talk today. And the way that and something else will come in from left field tomorrow. I think that we're going to see this a continual involvement, which is why certainly in the network that we have, there's a whole bunch of people that are looking. I'm interested and they're curious about new things and the way things are changing. I think the sharing economy is here to stay. But we'll see all kinds of interesting business models. I mean, you've seen the announcements from Ford where they're changing their business model themselves. And let's not forget that one of the darlings at the moment is Netflix. Netflix used to be a DVD store. And so people that are watching, if you've got a business and you feel that you're being disruptive, there's nothing wrong, or there's no reason why you can't change yourself and make a change to meet that, to meet the disruption that's happening. It doesn't have to be an app from San Francisco or anything like that. It's exciting times. I mean, we're seeing within Oracle, we're seeing cloud being very disruptive. The fact that people now don't have to go on and implement something and it takes 18 months and they don't see a business benefit, they can pretty much go in, put a credit card in, and they get access to an enterprise strength application. It's groundbreaking, and the way that that's going to change the IT industry is massive. And we're seeing, you know, that, I mean, it's disrupting our customers, it's disrupting us, which is probably one of the reasons why we're implementing social selling, because we're needing to react to the way that the market's impacting on us.
One of the things that I like about companies such as Oracle and IBM and Sage that have adopted social selling is that it makes it okay now for smaller businesses to do it as well, because there was a huge air about Twitter and LinkedIn, Facebook at work that you know, a lot of companies did not want you using that at work. It was banned.
Yes, it still is with a number of people, yeah.
But when we see Oracle, when we see people like Oracle or companies like Oracle actively promoting it, that's a reason to go back into your boss's office and say, hang on, we've got to look at this again, because there's stuff going on here. It's called social selling and we need some rules. I've got some other questions here for you that I want to try and whiz through. Two social sellers that you really admire, Tim.
They would be Jill Rowley, most definitely admire her. Jill Rowley. She's fantastic in terms of pushing the boundaries of and holding up what is social selling and questioning some of the things. And Jerry Moran as well, he's a great thought leader in terms of you know, coming up. I don't know if you've seen his napkin things where he draws things out, and it just like, oh, it's really fantastic, you know.
Can you see the right-hand panel on your device there? Can you see the Twitter conversation going on around us whilst you're talking?
I'm seeing it flashing up on the screen, yeah.
So you could see Thomas asking you to select him there, yes. Okay, so so a couple of other things. So an organization now gets involved in some social selling techniques. They start to do it. How do they track ROI? I mean, how do they go back, or how does the sales manager go back into the board of directors, and how does he say, okay, we're all using social, we're all going, there's some great energy going on? How do they know if it's making any money for the business?
Whether they're selling anything.
And how do they track it? Are there any tools?
Well, there's orders coming in, you know.
This is what, sorry?
There's selling stuff. It's about orders, okay. You know. And, so there's things that you can do. There's tools that you can get to actually track it. At the end of the day, what we've been looking at, what we've been measuring, is what we call marketing qualified leads, or MQLs, which for us is a meeting. And business closed, and we're just really those for us. It's about leads and leads and meetings and business closed.
What about
not interested in numbers of followers or likes or retweets or anything like that? It's vanity. This is selling. That's about closing business.
What about solutions like Nimble? Have you come across anything like that? Have you tried to using anything stuff like that?
I have used Nimble. I have to be careful because Nimble is a competitor to my employer.
Okay, let's go away from that one then, shall we? Okay then. So what we've got now is a question about a comment that Linda Bernardi made. Now, Linda is an IBM Chief Innovation Officer. She recently posted on LinkedIn something I found quite interesting.
Yeah.
She actually, she was pretty vocal. She was.
She swore.
She swore. Yes, she did. I wasn't going to say that, but I like the fact that you have said that. She did. She swore in her tweet.
So she wrote. She just for people that are watching, if you didn't see it, she wrote that LinkedIn had a particular etiquette, and then she swore, which actually you don't swear on LinkedIn. Well, I don't.
No, I've never.
For me, LinkedIn is a bit like it's a business meeting. You know, it's kind of you don't do that. And she complained LinkedIn was becoming too much like Facebook. Yes, it is. But then she went to swear. But hey, you know.
But she did talk about boundaries there. She did. I think what she was saying was that she was getting bombarded with in-mails from companies that were asking her repeatedly the same question. And I think what she was trying to say, and I get the fact that, yes, she did come out with a few choice words, but what she actually was trying to say is, listen, there are boundaries and you're crossing my boundaries constantly. Do you give any advice to people, or is there any advice that you can give to people about the boundaries they should respect with people like Linda, or, you know, others that aren't responding necessarily, but they are your target market?
Yes. So people are, there is a view, there's a view in life that the way you generate business is by sending out lots of emails. And therefore, if you can't generate business, what you do is just turn up the volume and send more and more emails. Now, there's loads of tools and things that actually stop emails coming through, and people have found it does work. So what they've done is that they've moved to LinkedIn, and what they're doing is they're sending loads and loads of emails. Now, if that's how that isn't social selling, that's just spamming, just like anything else. And for me, that doesn't fit within, you know, within a modern marketing or a modern salesperson's. It shouldn't be sitting with what they're doing. You know, one of the things that people always tell me they hate with sales is that they don't like the fact that you know, if you send 100 emails, you only get like one response. What they're looking for is a way of getting 100 responses. Well, social selling is a way that you don't get, is that you minimize the amount of rejection. You go online, you investigate the person, you look to see what their needs are. You look at, you know, and you do the background checks. And then you may say, you go to them and you may connect, but you don't immediately say, and do you want to buy my service? I mean, I just go and delete it. I mean, you know, why would you do that? Probably because if you send out 100 of them, you get one response. And it doesn't fit, you know, with a modern marketing, modern sales technique. And she's right to complain about it. There are companies that approach me that have got tools and algorithms that allow you to spam out loads of emails. And it's like,
actually, that was one thing when I asked Brian about, when I told Brian Fanzo that I was interviewing you today, he did say Timothy is one of the most authentic social sellers I've ever come across. And I think
thank you.
What you just said there actually leads straight into it. The fact that, you know, sending out more emails to try and dampen the response that you're getting, or to try and improve the response that you're getting, is actually not going to fix the problem. Okay, so I've got a couple of questions left. Okay, clout. We're gonna have to come to clout as a question. Providing a way of measuring people's reach. A lot of people know about it. Maybe not everybody listening today, but quite a few people know about it. What's your take on clout, and do you think it can really help somebody measure what it is that they're doing right, what it is that they're doing wrong?
I think that, you know, clout has a place. I mean, I think if you become, and I'm sure there's nobody here on this call who are obsessive about clout. You know, clout has its place. It's a measure. And I think that there's an awful lot of time wasted justifying whether it's good or bad. And it seems to become like a bit like Marmite. You either like it or you don't. And I've used clout in the past because, you know, when I was taking my journey through social, I wanted to have a way of measuring whether I was doing the right thing. But if you're doing the right thing, do you need a measure? So I'm really not, you know, my clout's 72, 73, and like, am I really that bothered? If I'm doing the right thing and I feel that I am on social, and, you know, I'm authentic and I'm sharing, and then does that really matter? But yes, when I was down at the 40s and the 50s, it kind of helped me to say, well, if it's gone from 40 to 45, I'm probably doing the right thing. But obviously now I know more about social, I kind of don't worry about it.
Okay, I like that answer because actually getting from a clout 45 to 65 was an interesting journey, but getting anywhere above 65 is all about authenticity. Although getting from 45 to 65 was just learning how on earth Twitter works, how LinkedIn works, how Facebook works, and how people engage.
Yeah, I mean, there's a guy called Thomas Power. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah, we know.
Okay, right. He has this view that if you have a clout of 70, it's a bit like getting a first class degree. And you know, if you think about the things that you need to go through to get a first class degree, you would have done, you know, you do research, you attend lectures, you do certain things. If you're in science, you do labs. And that's kind of the growth that you go through in terms of your experience on social media. You know, getting up to 500 followers, getting up to 5,000 followers. You know, even creating your own content and making that step. So there is a growth path, and I can understand his argument around that having a 70 is like having a degree in social media.
Okay, so we've actually got Thomas online, but I'm not going to add him just yet.
No.
He's asking to join, but this is your time, Tim. I'm not going to add him yet, but maybe at the end we might just bring him in for a few seconds at the end after I've finished the recording. Anyway, I've got a couple of other questions just to finish off here, okay? Is it okay for an employer to ask a candidate for a link to his or her profile on Facebook ahead of an interview, or even to accept that company as a friend so that they can delve a little deeper? Or is this going a little too far? So interview situation, let's look at the guy's resume. Okay, I want you to be friend with me on Facebook because I want to see what you're up to. Is that acceptable or not?
My view, if you're going into looking at what people are doing on Facebook, I wouldn't probably hire the person. If people are going out and getting drunk at the weekend, does that matter?
No.
If they're doing their job and they're meeting their numbers and their quota, and they go out and get and have a good time and that, come on.
I like your style, Tim. Okay, brilliant. That's fantastic. So finally, just a word there. The blog that you are, your blog at the moment, it is, I have typed it in there. Somebody asked me just to type it in. So I have actually written it through there as well, but it is socialsaleslounge.com with no spaces. We are having you over for dinner next week in London.
Thank you.
That I'm so looking forward to that. I know that we're going to be talking about social selling, that kind of stuff. It's going to be an exciting evening. Anybody that wants to come along to that, and also you can Skype in, and I'm going to try and do a blab for that as well, so that people can actually blab in and just see what's going on, and also maybe say stuff. We've got one question before we go. I'm not sure whether or not this is an appropriate question for you, considering that it's about streaming, but I'll go for it anyway. So I'd like to hear your views on the paid-for product placement and opinion influencing that we are starting to see in the live streaming space. So there's a bit of sales going on there, I guess, a little bit with, product advertising thing. What do you think of that? Do you think that it is something that's starting to damage the customer journey, or is it all good?
From a live streaming perspective, I've seen the stuff that Brian Fanzio is doing, and it's just, I think it's just, to use the cliche, it's a game changer. I mean, in terms of getting the customer intimacy, getting your message out to a wider audience, it's amazing. I mean, I took part in there's a social network for procurement people called Procurious. I
spell that for me. Can you spell that?
Procurious.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. And I took part in their Big Ideas Summit earlier in this year. And really what they did was that they turned the conference around. Rather than getting loads of people to the conference and maybe putting some up out onto the internet, they actually had 50 thought leaders in London and then beamed that out to the internet.
Oh.
So most of the people were actually out there and that was quite a different conference. And I think those sort of innovative ideas will come up. And even from I went to a concert and I got told off for live streaming take that. So I mean, that obviously has an impact on copyright and stuff like that, and that's going to be an issue for people to work out. But so, you know, social. So with social, we're going through a journey. We're still at a very early maturity of social, and things will change, and people will get things wrong, and mistakes will be made. But ultimately, you know, we are stepping through that journey.
All right, Tim.
So before we finish, Duncan, I just wanted to. I think, you know, I'm in sales, so you know, if you know, people want to contact me, more than happy to take contact. So my main Twitter account is Timothy_Hughes. TIMOTHY_HUGHES. They can also contact me on my work account, which is called Oracle Tim. They might get a different answer. And also we've just started my new blog, which is the Social Sales Lounge, and this is the start of another journey for me, where so we're looking for guest bloggers. And really what we're looking to do is actually create an environment for people, a bit like you were saying today from a questioning point of view, who are early stage social sellers, not really looking for the social sellers experts. We're looking for salespeople in big and small organizations who want to go on a social selling journey, who want some help and want to have a comfortable environment that they can talk to and network people. And that's what the Social Selling Lounge is about.
I think that that's a great idea, and I think that the more guidance we have from people like yourselves and Brian, the higher quality the work that we'll generate, because there's a lot of stuff, as we saw on LinkedIn, there's a lot of stuff that is over the boundaries, and if we do have rules and rule books, then it does make it a lot easier. Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Tim. I'm actually going to go off the record now, which means that I'm going to